September 30th, 2020, started like any other quiet morning in San Francisco. The fog rolled over the Golden Gate Bridge, wrapping the iconic red structure in a soft, eerie haze. Cars rushed past, tourists stopped to take photos, and the city slowly woke up to another day. But for 19-year-old Sydney West, this morning would be her last known moment in public. At around 6:45 a.m., surveillance cameras captured Sydney walking onto the Golden Gate Bridge. She was dressed casually, carrying her belongings, and appeared calm. Witnesses reported seeing her on the bridge for some time, looking out over the water. But no one saw Sydney walk off the bridge. No one saw her leave the area. Her car wasn't found nearby. And most chilling of all, nobody was ever recovered from the waters below. What happened to Sydney West that morning? Did she take her own life and vanish into the depths of the San Francisco Bay? Was she the victim of foul play? Or did she disappear intentionally, choosing to leave everything behind and start over? This is the story of Sydney West, a brilliant, kind, and talented young woman whose disappearance left behind more questions than answers, and whose case continues to haunt everyone who hears it. Before we continue, welcome to Crime Uncovered, where every case has a story, and the truth is often stranger and darker than fiction. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that button to stay updated on the latest true crime cases we uncover. And to our returning subscribers, thank you for your continued support. Don't forget to like this video so it reaches more people who care about the truth behind the headlines. I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your country in the comments below. So back to the case. Sydney Caitlin West, known to everyone as Sid, was born on July 11, 2000, in Pleasanton, California. She grew up in a close-knit family with her parents, Jay and Kimberly West, and quickly became the heart of the household. Sydney was one of those rare people who seemed to light up every room she entered. She was warm, kind, and funny, the kind of person who made everyone feel included. Friends often said that she had a gift for listening. If you were going through something hard, Sydney was the one you wanted to call. She was also creative and loved to express herself. Sydney enjoyed music and writing, often composing her own poems and songs. Sports were another passion of hers. She played volleyball throughout school and loved the teamwork and energy the sport brought to her life. Sydney did well academically and worked hard to reach her goals. After high school, she attended the University of California, Berkeley, where she studied neuroscience. She had big dreams, not just for a career but also for helping people and making a difference in the world. But Sydney also faced struggles that were not always visible. Like many young adults, she dealt with anxiety and depression. These challenges became worse during the COVID-19 pandemic, when the world shut down and daily life was turned upside down. The isolation weighed heavily on her, making her mental health battles harder to manage. Still, she kept trying. She was determined to move forward, to stay connected with the people she loved, and to continue chasing her goals. To her friends and family, Sydney was resilient and hopeful. But in the months leading up to her disappearance, there were small signs that she was struggling more than usual. In the early 2000s, officers began patrolling the Golden Gate Bridge not only to prevent possible terrorist attacks but also to stop people from jumping. Over the years, their job became focused almost entirely on suicide prevention, and this detail became very important in Sydney's case. On September 26, 2020, just 4 days before she went missing, Sydney was spotted on the Golden Gate Bridge by one of these bridge patrol officers. Reports say she appeared to be planning to take her own life. The officer intervened immediately. Sydney was stopped, taken off the bridge, and transported to a mental health facility where she was placed under observation for 72 hours. When her parents, Jay and Kimberly, learned about this, they were alarmed. They begged the hospital to keep Sydney admitted for a longer time. But California law does not allow someone to be held in a psychiatric hospital against their will for more than 72 hours unless a court order is issued. Without legal permission, doctors had no choice but to release her on September 29, 2020, just 1 day before she disappeared. Instead of visiting friends or family, Sydney checked into the Hilton Hotel in San Francisco after her release. This was a deliberate choice, showing she wanted to be alone during those critical hours. Her parents, desperate to find her after she vanished, created a Facebook page called Find Sydney West. They hoped it would spread awareness and bring in tips from the public. But soon, strange things began to happen. Anonymous users claiming to know Sydney started posting on the page, accusing her parents of deleting any comments suggesting Sydney may have taken her own life. These accusations created tension online and painted a picture of a family unwilling to face the possibility of suicide. Multiple news outlets later reported that Sydney had been under tremendous pressure and was struggling with mental health challenges in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. But her parents refused to accept that she had chosen to end her life. To them, this theory made no sense. More strange details began to surface. Sydney had kept a prepaid phone hidden from her parents. That phone was discovered later in her backpack at Crissy Field, hidden in bushes near the bridge. Investigators say Sydney had taken the SIM card from her regular phone, the one her parents tracked, and placed it inside this prepaid phone, which she used privately. There were even claims that Sydney would sometimes leave her work phone connected to Wi-Fi in her room when she went out, so anyone checking her location would think she was still home. Her parents also learned that Sydney had been using Reddit and had multiple secret Instagram accounts separate from her main one. Accounts they didn't know existed. She wasn't even friends with her mother on Facebook, and at one point, she locked her account to prevent her mom from monitoring her posts. There were also reports that Sydney's father had kicked her out of the house a few times as a teenager when her grades dropped, forcing her to stay with friends for short periods. Jay and Kimberly strongly deny these claims, insisting they are false. They also deny that a prepaid phone was ever found in Sydney's bag. Despite all the speculation, police believe the most likely scenario is that Sydney took her own life and that her body was never recovered from the water. But her family has never accepted this explanation. To understand why investigators lean towards suicide in Sydney's case, we must first understand the dark reputation of the Golden Gate Bridge. The Golden Gate Bridge is one of the most photographed landmarks in the world, but it also holds a heartbreaking record. It is the most frequently used suicide site on Earth. For decades, the bridge has been a magnet for those in despair. Because of this grim history, authorities have made multiple efforts to prevent such tragedies. Bridge patrol officers are trained to spot people in distress, approach them gently, and stop them before they can jump. But despite their work, the number of suicides has remained alarmingly high. Sydney's case fits the pattern investigators know too well. Every year, an average of around 30 people jump from the Golden Gate Bridge. That's 2 to 3 deaths every month. Ken Holmes, who served as a coroner in Marin County for 36 years, knows this better than anyone. He helped investigate many high-profile cases, including the trailside killer murders that terrorized the Bay Area in the 1970s and 1980s. But the deaths at the Golden Gate affected him the most. When Holmes first became a coroner, he only saw a handful of bridge suicides. But in 1990, when the Coast Guard moved its base from San Francisco to Marin County, Holmes suddenly became responsible for examining every body pulled from the waters below the bridge. He quickly realized just how frequent these deaths were. The numbers were so high that he created a separate reporting category just for Golden Gate cases to make his work easier. Holmes has estimated that the real number of suicides at the Golden Gate is likely far higher than the official count of 1,800 because some bodies are never recovered. A 2007 study analyzing 206 cases from the previous decade revealed a chilling pattern. Most victims were white men between the ages of 14 and 44, many of them students. For years, Holmes believed that media should avoid reporting on bridge suicides, fearing that publicizing them might inspire copycats. But after seeing no real decline in deaths, he changed his approach. Holmes began to speak out, joining the Bridge Rail Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to preventing suicide at the bridge. The foundation's main mission was to get a suicide prevention net installed. The proposed solution was a stainless steel net that would extend 20 feet out and 20 feet below the bridge, making it nearly impossible for someone to jump straight into the water. This project was approved, but not without controversy. Some argued the net was too expensive and would ruin the bridge's appearance. Others claimed that determined people would simply find another place to end their lives. But research proved otherwise. Studies showed that restricting access to lethal means, like the Golden Gate, dramatically reduces suicide rates because many suicide attempts are impulsive and location-specific. Construction on the net began in 2018, but delays, rising costs, and public opposition slowed progress. Despite this, advocates believe the net will save countless lives once it is complete. By 2023, while the net was still under construction, 14 suicides were recorded at the bridge, a significant drop from the usual annual average. Experts believe that once the net covers the entire span, that number will fall even further. Even with all the evidence pointing towards suicide, Sydney's case has remained open, and her family refuses to accept that theory. Sydney's parents, Jay and Kimberly West, created a Facebook page called Find Sydney West shortly after she disappeared. The goal was to raise awareness, share updates, and collect tips from anyone who might have seen her. But soon, strange things began happening online. Anonymous users, who claimed to be Sydney's friends, accused the Wests of deleting comments that suggested she may have taken her own life. The family has never confirmed this, but according to various reports, they strongly rejected any public mention of suicide, saying it didn't make sense given who Sydney was. Other claims surfaced, suggesting that Sydney's parents had removed emotional posts from her social media accounts and even deleted poems from her blog that hinted at sadness or anger. The family, however, denies editing her online presence in a way that would hide signs of mental distress. One particularly puzzling detail was the discovery of a prepaid phone in Sydney's hidden backpack. According to some sources, Sydney had secretly purchased this phone to keep her communications private from her parents. It was reported that she sometimes left her regular phone connected to Wi-Fi in her room so that, when tracked, it appeared she was home, even when she was out. Sydney also allegedly used secret Instagram accounts, separate from her main one, to post content her parents couldn't see. Her relationship with her parents may not have always been smooth. Some of Sydney's friends have said that her father would sometimes kick her out of the house when she got bad grades, forcing her to stay with friends for a night or two. The West family has publicly denied these claims. Despite the mystery surrounding Sydney's personal life, police have never found evidence of a crime. Their leading theory remains that Sydney died by suicide, and her body has not been recovered. The Golden Gate's currents are strong and unpredictable, and bodies that go into the water are not always found. This is why police believe the most likely explanation is that Sydney jumped from the bridge and was swept away. But Sydney's parents refuse to accept this explanation. They insist their daughter was not suicidal and that her disappearance must have another explanation. To support their own investigation, the family hired private investigator Scott Dudek. He has spent countless hours reviewing Golden Gate Bridge surveillance footage, retracing Sydney's steps, and chasing leads. Scott has publicly said he believes two possibilities are most likely. Either Sydney was abducted, or she intentionally ran away to start a new life. He points out that there is no video of Sydney actually jumping, and no witness has ever come forward to say they saw her go over the rail. This keeps hope alive for the West family. They continue to believe that Sydney may be out there, somewhere waiting to be found. Over the years, many tips have come in from people claiming to have seen Sydney in different cities. Every one of these tips has been followed up on, but none have led to finding her. The San Francisco Police Department has been criticized for releasing very little information about their investigation. Some believe this secrecy has slowed progress. For their part, police have stated that they keep details private to protect the integrity of the case and that there is no evidence Sydney was a victim of a crime. The family has put up a $25,000 reward for information that leads to Sydney's safe return. They also ask that tips be sent directly to their private investigator, rather than only to police. A move that some critics argue could complicate the official investigation. Today, Sydney West is still missing. Her case remains one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries connected to the Golden Gate Bridge. Thank you for watching. Every victim deserves their story told. If you found this story shocking and heartbreaking, subscribe to Crime Uncovered and help keep their memory alive. What do you think about this case? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, keep questioning everything.